video, we are going to talk about how to predict what will be on a math exam. Before we begin, let's be clear about what prediction means. You're probably not going to know the exact questions that will appear on the exam. Unless the instructor gives you the exam in advance, there will always be some uncertainty. But you can often make a very good prediction about the topics, skills, formulas, and types of problems you are likely to see. The goal is not to guess the exact exam. The goal is to identify what you should be able to do. This can make studying feel much less overwhelming. Instead of thinking, I have to review everything we have done, you can create a focus list of the most important skills and then practice those skills in an organized way. Let's begin with the most obvious source, information provided by your instructor. Check whether your instructor has given you a study guide, a review sheet, a list of chapters or sections, learning objectives for the course, an exam announcement on Canvas or Blackboard or whatever LMS you use, a review video, a practice exam, a list of formulas, or a description of the exam format. You're unlikely to have all of these, but even one can be useful. These materials should be your starting point. Read them carefully. Do not just look at the chapter numbers. Pay attention to the verbs your instructor uses. For example, a study guide might say, solve linear equations, graph linear functions, interpret slope, factor quadratic expressions, use the Pythagorean theorem, compare data sets. These verbs tell you what you will probably need to do. There is a big difference between recognizing a formula and using it, or between defining slope and interpreting slope in a situation. Turn each learning objective into a question you can ask yourself. For example, can I solve a linear equation without looking at an example? Can I graph a line from an equation? Can I explain what slope means in a word problem? Can I choose the correct formula for a geometry problem? This turns a general study guide into a useful self-check. Next, look at your homework. Homework is often one of the best clues about what may appear on an exam because it shows which skills your instructor expected you to practice. Do not assume that every homework problem is equally important. Look for patterns. What types of problems appear repeatedly? What skills were included in several different assignments? What problems did your instructor spend the most time explaining? Which topics built on one another? For example, suppose you had several assignments involving equations. One assignment focused on one-step equations. Another included distributing and combining like terms. A later assignment including variables on both sides. That pattern suggests that solving equations is an important core skill. The exam may include more than one type of equation or a problem that combines several earlier skills. Quizzes are also useful clues. A quiz shows which skills your instructor considered important enough to assess before the exam. Look at each quiz and ask, what topic was being tested? What type of thinking did the problem require? Which questions did I miss? Did the instructor give feedback about common mistakes? Sometimes students review only the questions they missed. That is useful, but also look at the questions you answered correctly. Could you still solve them today without looking at your old work? Getting a question right 2 weeks ago does not always mean the skill is still strong. Try it again. Previous exams can also help, especially before a final exam. Look at the structure of earlier exams. Did your instructor include a mixture of short problems and longer applications? Were there multiple choice questions, written response questions, or both? Did you need to show your work? Were word problems included? Did the exam combine several skills in one problem? The next exam may not look exactly the same, but instructors often use similar expectations and formats throughout a course. Your class notes provide another set of clues. Look for examples your instructor emphasized. You might notice phrases such as, "This is important. Make sure you know how to do this. This is a common exam question. Students often make a mistake here. Be able to explain why this works. Remember the difference between these two methods." These comments are worth reviewing. Also, notice which examples took the most time in class. A topic that required several examples, multiple representations, or a detailed discussion may be an important part of the course. In an online class, the same clues may appear in lesson videos, module instructions, discussion posts, or instructor announcements. Pay attention to repeated ideas. If a skill appears in a video, a homework assignment, a quiz, and a review sheet, it is probably important. Repetition is one of the strongest clues you can find. You should also look at the course learning objectives. These may be listed in the syllabus, course modules, chapter introductions, or assignments. Learning objectives tell you what the course is designed to help you learn. An exam is usually intended to measure some of those objectives. For example, a learning objective might say, students will solve and interpret proportions. That suggests you may need to do more than perform a calculation. You may also need to explain what the result means in context. Another objective might say, students will represent linear relationships using tables, graphs, and equations. That suggests you should practice moving between different representations, not just solving one type of equation. Now, let's talk about what not to do. Do not try to predict the exam based only on what you hope will be included. It is tempting to say, "I do not think the hard topic will be on the test," or "that section was short, so it probably does not matter." Use evidence from the course instead. Was the topic in the study guide? Was it assigned for homework? Did it appear on a quiz? Did the instructor emphasize it? Does it connect to a major course objective? The more evidence you find, the more likely it is that the topic deserves your attention. Also, do not rely only on the number of problems assigned. Sometimes an instructor assigns many routine problems to build fluency, but the exam includes fewer problems that require deeper understanding. Make sure you are practicing both procedures and reasoning. Ask yourself, can I complete the steps? Can I decide which method to use? Can I explain what my answer means? Can I recognize the problem when it was written differently? Can I check whether my answer is reasonable? Those skills help you prepare for unfamiliar versions of familiar skills. Now, let's create an exam prediction list. Start with a blank sheet of paper or a digital document. Write the exam name and date at the top. Then create 4 sections. The first section is major topics. List the chapters, sections, or units that will be covered. The second section is skills I should be able to do. Be specific. Instead of writing fractions, write add fractions with unlike denominators, multiply and divide fractions, simplify answers, use fractions in word problems. The third section is problem types I may see. This could include equations, graphs, tables, word problems, applications, multiple step problems, explanations, formula problems. The fourth section is topics I need to check. These are the skills you are unsure about or have not practiced recently. Once you have this list, compare it with the course materials. Check your study guide, homework, quiz, notes, and announcements. Add anything you missed. Now you have a working prediction of the exam. The next step is to test your prediction. Choose 1 or 2 problems from each major skill. Try them without notes. If you can solve them and explain your reasoning, mark that topic as confident. If you can begin but make mistakes or need reminders, mark it as needs practice. If you do not know how to start, mark it as needs help. This turns your prediction list into a study plan. You're no longer simply guessing what might be on the exam. You are checking whether you are prepared for the most likely skills. What should you do if you are still unsure? Ask your instructor a focused question. For example, will the exam include material from chapters 2 through 5? Should we be able to graph equations by hand? Will we need to memorize the formulas, or will a formula sheet be provided? Should we expect word problems as well as direct calculations? Will the final be cumulative? These questions are much more useful than asking, what exactly is on the test? Your instructor may not be able to tell you every detail, but they can often clarify the scope, format, or major expectations. Here's your action step. Choose your next exam and collect 5 sources of information: the study guide or exam announcement, your homework, your quizzes, your class notes or lesson videos if they're available, the course learning objectives. Use them to make a list of 5 to 10 specific skills that are likely to be assessed. Then place a mark next to each skill. Confident, needs practice, needs help. That list becomes the foundation for your exam review. The big idea from this video is you cannot always predict the exact exam questions, but you can predict the most important skills by looking for patterns in your course materials. Do not try to study every page equally. Look for repeated topics, major objectives, assigned problem types, and instructor emphasis. Then practice those skills independently. A thoughtful prediction can help you study with more direction and less stress. You do not need to know exactly what is coming. You need to prepare yourself to use what you have learned. You've got this.